Hello, one and all, and welcome back to another thrilling episode of Off the Dome. I'm your humble interviewer, Jordan Brown, and with me for the very first time is our stellar CEO. Say hi, stellar CEO.
Hi, stellar CEO.
Sam, thank you so much for joining me.
Jordan, it's my pleasure. This feels long awaited and long faded. I feel like we should cue old-timey Western draw music, you know?
Yes. The wildest thing happened to me today. My time hop prompted me a screenshot that I took 1 year ago today is when you started following me on TikTok.
Today?
Today.
Wow. Happy anniversary of our relationship.
Yeah, it's
my
a
TikTok
beautiful
friend.
A beautiful, beautiful thing. I have so many things to ask you, but I wanted to start with obviously the most important question, the thing I'm going to ask you that's most serious today. Death let me finish my show, or Death let me do my show.
Sure.
Coming to Austin for the Moon Tower Comedy Festival. I bought tickets solely off of your Instagram posts. My wife hit or miss on musicals. How do I sell her on it?
Oh, okay. Great question. I honestly think that as talented a performer as Rachel Bloom is, as talented a singer, as talented a musical artist, the music is kind of the least of it. Like, that show is profound and moving and funny and meta and innovative before it's musical. That would be my pitch.
All right. Great.
You know, before we dive in, Jordan, I've got to say this is a little nerve-wracking for me, and I'll tell you why, is because the vast, vast majority of the people I talk to in this context are not nearly as informed as you are. And I feel like you could have questions that are so much, the answers to which are so much more telling than the typical interview. So this feels like a real trust fall, a real staring into the abyss.
I'm just here to collect as many scoops as I can so that I can brag about them.
And I, unfortunately, am not very good about keeping things secret. So this could be bad for both of us.
No, you're the CEO. You're allowed to do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's what they keep telling me I can't do. Is whatever I want. I promise this is not sponsored by cucumber water, but can't resist.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the giant juice, that name of which I instantly forgot, and cucumber water, the things that Sam loves.
Exactly right. Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. My wife and I were playing along last night to the Newlywed game. She correctly got my number one app use, which is TikTok, not surprisingly.
Not surprising at all.
Is this a safe place where I can share with you that my TikTok number for 1 week of use was more than 24 hours?
Oh my God, Jordan. Well, look, you at least have the excuse of it being tangentially connected to your career, which I'm not sure that Haley does. But wow, that is 8-16. That is 3 full work days worth of TikTok usage.
Yeah.
Damn.
Not great.
I want to know what your For You page looks like. I want to know the cavernous depths to which you were spelunking in TikTok.
Look, if someone's posting about Dropout, I'm seeing it. That's for sure.
I got to admit, this is, again, just a little confession from me to you, which is that I see way more than I interact with for a couple of reasons. The first of which is if I interact with something, someone might notice, which is not what I want all the time. And the second thing is that I don't necessarily want to train my algorithm to just feed me over and over again. Luckily my experience of TikTok is still like an entertaining one. But when I do see Dropout stuff show up on my feed and I go to the comments, you're largely there.
Yeah, I'm very active. Yeah, at one point someone replied, I had commented, I think it was like a D20 video. Someone replied and they're like, "You've been the top comment on the last 3 videos I've seen." And I was like, yeah, man, I'm here a lot.
Hot damn, Jordan. Yeah, I'm just amazed that there's enough content on the platform to keep you engaged. You know,
it's
like we're not talking about a lot of shows. We're talking about like 8 shows.
Yeah, but more coming? Is that?
More coming all the time. We're really busy like right now.
Yeah, I mean, based on no insider information, but the pictures of people who used to live on Lopez Island who are currently in Los Angeles, got a good suspicion that D20 is currently spinning up. Obviously, huge run of shows this past weekend for Dropout Presents. Congrats. I heard you were jump scaring people at the entryway.
It was. It's true. I do. I sort of needed to be there for the show announcements because they wanted me to be the voice of God that introduced the guests, which also meant that I was scaring people on their way through the door, which was, I'm afraid to say, a lot of fun.
Yeah. How many people said you've been here the whole time to you as they walked in?
I think I got only 2. I've been here the whole times. I think I got 3 Where Are You Froms? All in all, we're talking about like 600 people coming through that door. Not so bad.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
So in your recent NPR interview, you said there were like 5, maybe 6 boxes that you check for like if a show is like a
I can't
good
believe we're starting here. This is as deep as we went in that NPR interview. This is the starting point for my Jordan Brown interview. Terrific.
Yeah. To be fair, it's about to be a bit. So is the 7th box that the name of the show has to be SEO poison?
Oh, fuck. Here's the thing. We are trying to get better at this, but I'm worried that in trying to get better at this, we've distilled it down to a formula that means we're repeating ourselves over and over again, because like the shows that are coming out of the discussion about how we need to do better about this are Gastronauts, Thousandaires, Smarty Pants.
Well, I mean, Gastronauts, first of all, I think that's the scoop. No one has said that word anywhere before. Yeah. So there we go.
Yeah. It's going to be full of them today, Jordan. It's going to be full
great. Thousandaires, I think you'll at least like own that. Smarty Pants is a phrase already, I believe. But like,
Smarty Pants is SEO poison too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
we haven't grown out of ourselves entirely.
But I mean, nothing will ever top the SEO poison that is breaking news. Ooh boy,
that's just a little show that's like if you're in the know, it's kind of like the equivalent of like the speakeasy that's like through the grocery store. That's the vibe we're going for with breaking news.
Hey, I love it. On my Patreon, I have like a section where I'm like, hey, do you have any questions that like you would like to ask? And I take suggestions. And one person wanted to know how you became the kind of CEO that is, and I'm going to do a direct quote here, being okay with being called a smug motherfucker by one of your employees.
Well, look, you can't take yourself too seriously. I think 90% of the roasts that I've gotten on Dropout, including the roasts that are coming next week or in 2 weeks as a part of Sam Says 3, are fully accurate. I think Vic says in Sam Says 3, as a response to the prompt, roast me, Sam says roast me, they say, you have the vibe that your kids call you by your first name, which is just such an incredibly accurate roast. Man.
That's so good.
What can I say? I think the truth is like under the suit and tie and the affability is a little bit of a naughty boy. And I am just about as much a glutton for punishment as Grant O'Brien. But I've maybe had to like learn that about myself through doing Dropout,
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a good learning curve to get there for that. Yeah. You're in the right spot. Was there any concern that if there had been more more Escape the Green Room, that Brendan was actually going to throw you down a flight of stairs?
I think it's apparent watching Escape the Green Room that like, but the piece that you might not know unless you're a little bit astute or a little just like hip to our performers is just how hot that room was getting as we went. It's kind of like there's some Ghostbusters movie, like the first one or the second one, where they're running a social experiment where they're like increasing the temperature of a room as a couple argues. And there was that where I think like the panic of our players was getting realer and realer as the piece wore on. And by the time they found out I was in the room with them, it was almost like putting the jailer inside the jail, you know, with with the inmates who were like ready to have my head. Dangerous proposition.
But made for such good TV. Truly, I think my favorite episode. Really special.
I agree. Really special. We did actively think about doing another escape room this year and finally decided it was a little too soon to try to build on the success of the first one. But I would leave open the possibility that I would trap more people in more rooms at some point in the future.
Yeah.
There was just like an alchemy about it. It just worked really, really well.
That was beautiful. Look, screaming at a camera person, you will be remembered, is just never not going to be entertaining.
That camera person came up to me at, I think it was at our holiday party, and was like, just had no idea they were going to be an on camera presence, and was really tickled by it. But listen, that's we're a fourth wall breaking kind of institution.
Yeah. You mentioned Vic. They are the greatest improv comic in the world. That's not really a question. Very important people is I am full of flabbergasted at how incredible that show is. I know. Just like top to bottom.
It's a really special show. Vic is a really special host. I think, like, look, in my position, all you're trying to do, all you can do is optimize for success. And it doesn't happen all the time. So, like, you can do what you imagine or make what you imagine are 10 of the correct decisions and still be surprised that something works out as well as it does. And I think that's the case with VIP, where we've been talking about rebooting Hello, My Name Is since like the very beginning of Dropout. Like, I have notes to myself that I made all the way back in 2018 about rebooting that show. And I think when we first started talking about it, we were afraid that it would be overly simple. Like this notion of you put an improviser in Charlie Rose style interview, and, you know, maybe there's the little bit of like the green screen component, but is that enough to really hook people? And our 15 to 20 minute episode is going to be anything anyone really celebrates. And I think we've been blown away by the reception. I mean, Vic, absolutely perfect choice for that role. Like, so much more than your run of the mill, this is a comedy term, not a gendered term, straight man.
Yeah.
Like,
I made a video about it today.
Did you actually?
Yes. Yeah. That Vic plays that part so brilliantly, but is more than that, because they're getting in those, like, it's not just like straight man. It's also the, like, we don't throw things at PAs anymore. Like that level of just like beautiful subtlety of a joke that like just perfection.
Amazing, right? That,
yeah.
The sort of like a layer of character building that's going on under the surface, where it's like we're really watching a character showcase of the other person in Very Important People. If you watch all the episodes, you're getting a Vic character showcase beneath the surface, like stacks up to become one. Jordan, this finale episode of Very Important People.
Ooh.
Oh my God. It's the Brennan episode.
Okay.
And it is the most we peer into Vic's character out of any of them. And it's like, really takes the show to the next level, like in a really oddball and wonderful kind of a way. Very, very excited to see.
Yeah.
Very excited to see where the show goes in its season 2.
Oh, Sam, thank you. I should say I'm wearing a suit today because I think you may have been a little confused. When I said interview, I did mean job interview.
Moderator, right?
Yeah, so I have an idea for South by next year. Very important panel,
Whoa.
the making of very important people. I moderate with Tamar, Vic, and Alex, all of whom I know now at this point.
Wow. It's
Thoughts?
a good pitch. It's a good pitch. It's the title's right there for the taken. I wonder if we were to put together some very important people and show it off at South by, if folks would come watch. It feels like festival friendly material.
Oh, yeah, like it's South by like loves like an online thing, loves a weird thing, loves comedy, and loves like a behind the scenes thing. Like it's a very friendly vibe there.
I think the only reason we haven't done more of this type of thing, and I would lightly include the con in this category, although not really. And it's even the reason why for the first several years of Dropout, I was a little press shy, period, is just because I'm so concerned about us getting up our own asshole in the sense of like, I really want it to just be about what shows up on screen, you know? And from a business perspective, this also comes from a place of like paranoia, based on us falling apart and having to put ourselves back together again, is like I'm sort of allergic to self-indulgence. You know, it's like bare bone business model, just about putting stuff on screen. And then only in the last year have I been allowing myself to have a little bit more fun and dream a little bit bigger.
Yeah. So speaking of dreaming bigger, Dropout Con, 5 years? Come on, Sam, we can do it next year. Like, you're looking at your new director of events. Cons, Dropout Con is like the crown jewel, but like let's get like, I don't know, Iffy Wadiway and Brian David Brian David Gilbert at PAX East, let's say. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I see it for sure. Iffy is he's into the festival scene, and he's already talking about taking actually around from fest to fest, and you know, because we don't own any of this talent, like they are their own free agents. Like our vibe for the last few years has been like, listen, if you're really excited about doing something, we will help empower you to do it, which by the way has been our attitude with the Intrepid Heroes. The live Dimension 20, we have almost nothing economically to do with. We are filming them, and that's basically all. So yeah, 5 years. It's a great question.
I mean, it's not like you can't get Hank Green on the phone right now to be like, hey, how did you run VidCon in the early days? Like,
yeah, that's a good point. And Hank would be like, I sold it as soon as I could. I don't think that this is announced yet, and so I'm going to be vague when I talk about it. But I will say that like recent Intrepid Heroes, recent Dimension 20 live stuff has sort of emboldened me to think that this may be doable sooner than I had imagined. There is something big live we're doing with Dimension 20 post summer that has made me think like, oh, maybe I could afford to be a little bit more ambitious in this category.
Yeah.
So you could be right. Hey. Should we say 3 years, Jordan? Should we see where that gets us?
I mean, it depends on when you want to bring me on, but yeah, that's fine. 3 years sounds good.
Yeah. Check your Google Cal and let me know how your 2027 looks.
Perfect. I'll keep it. I'll just keep the whole calendar year open.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Now I don't know which interview. Variety, I think, is when you talked about like the Dimension 20 live show success in the UK and Ireland. Was you were like, oh, we could maybe do Dropout Con. Did you really not think there was going to be? Did you really think like there's a moment that D20 Live wasn't going to sell out the instant tickets went on sale?
Maybe it's a naivete. I don't know what it is, Jordan. I think the truth is too that like some of this initial popularity was like in COVID. So we were locked down and we were on the internet, but who knows the way that the internet translates to real life. So I went to Edinburgh this past summer for the festival, which was like a life-changing experience. Just it's also where I saw Chris Grace's show and Courtney Prost's show, both of which are becoming Dropout Present specials. I was stopped on the street like 25 times a day, and that was a new experience for me. You know, like I'm something of a recluse. I would like to think that none of us have like super big heads in terms of what Dropouts become or the size of the fandom. Every time we roll these dice, it feels like a gamble to me. Yeah, like 12,000 seats and it's like 72 hours or something like that. I mean,
yeah,
nauseating.
Yeah, and like, and in another country where, I mean, not to say that like where, you know, it's not to say that there aren't fans worldwide, but obviously you're based out of Los Angeles. If this was an LA show, you could expect like, oh, this is going to sell out super fast. But like, still, I'd be like, hey, we got a bunch of seats abroad, which feels like, did the Intrepid Heroes just want a European vacation? And they're like, let's go. I mean, Brennan and Izzy were like, hey, we'll do bigger there one night so that Izzy can come too.
That's not a piece of it. I mean, for sure. Like if you're going to do something extracurricular, which like is totally what this is in the sense of like, there will never be a great business model behind live anything, not unless you're at the level of like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
It is a little bit like what would be fun. And like I think tickets to Europe are a big piece of that. By the way, I'm going to be at those shows. Not all of them, but I'm going to be at the London ones, which will be really fun.
Yeah. Wonderful. I hope you are wearing your every other Thursday shirt. Is that what I heard? Yeah, that's right. I get scoops just sent to me.
That's wild. That is merely a clothing brand that I happen to like. Although I did have the smart aleck response. Someone asked me what every other Thursday was, and I said it's like when we like to post content.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's genuinely, people are like, what show do you think it could be that's going to be on every other Thursday? Like,
that's so funny.
Yeah, it's very fun. There's obviously like a huge new contingent of folks who have just started watching things like Game Changer like live this season, and have discovered the bi-weekly format. And are like, wait, what? And I'm like, uh-oh, you guys didn't know that? Bad news, gang.
Truly. We talk about it. You know, we talk about it. It's funny. I recognize that we're testing the patience of the audience. It makes such a difference to us to not have to post every week from a budgetary perspective, but also from a quality standpoint, which is just like taking our time with these shows. It's almost at this point, it's a little bit of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which is like it for all the complaining there is about it. And there is, it is still working. Like, you know, the company's growing.
Yeah.
It means, by the way, that a season of Game Changer, which like this season's only 9 episodes long, and it is actually, I promise, there are no bonus episodes at the end of this season. That the difference between that lasting 9 weeks on Dropout and 18 weeks on Dropout makes a huge difference for us in terms of churn, as far as the business model is concerned. So it's going to take, it would take a lot more probably to get us thinking about posting something every week. Maybe a series comes along where we're just like, we don't think we can afford to post this every other week as opposed to every week. But for now, you know, everything we do is like something in between a podcast model and a TV model. And I think this is an example of that, where some of my favorite podcasts are bi-weekly. And so I think we're borrowing a little bit from podcasting there. But I guess all I can say is I appreciate your patience, everyone's patience.
The thing that I love, obviously, like I've made an entire brand around it, is we get the behind the scenes in the off weeks. And that like not only like feels like, oh, we're getting a holdover, but it is genuinely, I love getting to see like Paul and Chloe and whoever else talk about like, hey, here's the wild thing that I had to do for this episode. I assume we'll get some next week of like building the heart-shaped
Totally.
set. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting this year because we decided that in lieu of doing a big cut for time episode at the end of the season, we were going to make these BTS episodes a little bit longer and fuller. There was a whole, like the original cut of Newlywed Game was like 45 minutes long. And there are whole games that we lifted straight out of the show and did point fudging in order to do. And those are going in the BTS video. So if you watch the BTS video now, you're actually getting like 7 minutes more episode.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, but speaking of cut for time, how long is the Sam Says 3 cut? And when will you release the 13-hour version?
Oh my God. Sam Says 3, which will release like 2 weeks from today, minus a day. First of all, Paul Robolino said he thinks it's the best episode we've ever made. I don't know if I would go that far. I do think that it's one of the best episodes we've ever made. It is now 42 minutes. That was tricky. It's tough. It's tough, you know? That was like a 2.5, 3 hour long shoot. I'm very excited for that one. It's an interesting season of Game Changer. Like, who's the dog?
It is my dog Petey,
Petey.
A little Boston Terrier who gets upset when people walk by.
Love it. You know, it felt in a lot of ways like revisiting season 1, like starting from scratch, in the sense of the longer we do the show, the more we box ourselves into a corner as far as not repeating ourselves is concerned. The more I felt like I had to kind of come all the way back to what is the core conceit of this show. And like Newlywed Game is such a basic game for Game Changer, especially at this point, I think when people expect like really big and physical shows. But I was sort of just as eager to explore simple premises and figure out if the show could still be this way as I was to do things like Sam Says 3, which really upset the form.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about Game Changer in general, but like the Newlywed Game, I think is like a perfect example of obviously very funny, but also very, I mean, wholesome is a weird word to describe an episode that includes we had sex 37 times in 1 month.
Jesus.
Yeah, shout out to Iffy, who's doing an AMA today and answered questions about how they are capable of like having sex that many times.
Oh my God, I gotta go check
before
out
bed and in the morning is his answer.
Wow.
So,
sure, it's like meals.
Yeah,
That's like how to think of it. Yeah. Tell me your secrets, Iffy. And Emily.
Yeah, but very like a wholesome, fun. Like I mean, you know, like not. Brennan is not screaming at me about like the devastation of being in second place, but still like a like excellent model.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that pitch, which I love, is like these phones know us so intimately at this point that there's really interesting, somewhat embarrassing, very personal information, entertaining information that can come out of that. And I think, you know, at the core of every episode of Game Changer is just what is a game mechanic that is going to be like ripe for exploration. A lot of people, when they pitch me Game Changer ideas, and I get Game Changer ideas pitched to me all the time, it's like, that sounds like a fun game. Is it going to be fun for 35 minutes while we escalate it in a whole bunch of interesting ways? And that's where a lot of games fall short. I think some of even our own games fall short, where it's like, this may have been very fun, but like, I think even like my coffee episodes are a little guilty of this, which is just like, it's hard to get them to go anywhere, you know? So that's what I think as we go on, that's what makes the show more challenging, but also more rewarding, is trying to come up with what those clever premises are.
Yeah. So I've accidentally started a podcast with Vic. We talk bi-weekly about the newest episode of Very Important People.
Whoops.
Yeah, a giant win for me. I don't know how it happened. I think Vic might just be so Canadian nice that they won't say no to me every time I ask.
Totally possible. Yeah.
Yeah. But we were talking about, I mentioned Henry, right? The pig?
Yes.
To them, and they were like, look, I can't wait to see the episode because the whole thing, I don't remember anything that happened.
I experience this too. I black out, feel like filming some episodes sometimes too. And then the funny thing happens that I'm in the edit with them and I'm noting episodes. I think I do. We use this application called frame.io to note. And I think I counted, and on average, I do like over 300 notes per episode. So I like get to remember them a whole second time. And like now it's like intimately ingrained in my memory. Yeah, Henry was awesome.
Yeah. I can't wait. Also, the cruelest thing I think you've ever done. Don't look at a pig. That was pretty. In a tiny hat. Is that the
it's a pig in a little hat. It's a pig in a little cowboy hat, kind of in honor of Buxter $Boyd, my Dimension 20 character.
I don't know why you thought you needed to clarify who Buxter $Boyd was to me.
You never know, Jordan. Like I said, humble creature. I don't make assumptions about people's fandom. You never know.
Buxter is truly one of my favorite characters. I love a rogue who has terrible dexterity. Just like, what a fantastic choice. Like, I love truly, that kind of like, lean into like, like an Emily. It's an Emily Axford level decision, and that is the highest compliment I can pay someone. Of like, hey,
honored.
I should do something. I shouldn't make this choice, but for my character, I'm gonna.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think therein lies Brennan's unique approach to D&D, which is like characters' flaws yield better stories than their mere victories. He had something he said to me once, which was a nat 1 is more interesting than a nat 20, which I thought was really that almost encapsulates his approach to D&D right there. It's funny. He, I don't know if this is still how he operates or if he's changed, because Mice and Murder was a while back, but we rolled for our character traits, and then he took all of our numbers and he was like, I'm going to fudge these around a little bit just to make things more interesting. So you get a character sheet back, which is like it's loosely based on your rolls, but it's also with like Brennan's own math thrown in there. And like, I remember getting my character sheet back and going like, oh, this is just funny. Like, I'm so high in some areas and I'm so low in others. Like, there's nothing balanced about this. So.
Amazing. It's such a good season. The thing that I love about that season is, it was that perfect. You couldn't have had a better use of like the Zoom technology, because you were giving the text message secrets. That Brennan like such a brilliant use of the format and like the constrictions at the time, but like including that stuff, it was perfection.
I agree. We didn't know we were going to do that. Sometimes people ask me like why, like what our trick to producing is, or like how, like what our, just how we're coming at this as producers in order to try to achieve a quality product. And I think a huge portion of it is remaining present in the producing process for what the thing itself seems to want to be. I think that if you're an insecure creative setting out to create something for the first time, there is this way in which it's like, oh, this needs to be as true as possible to my original vision. And I think instead what we're pretty good at is, oh, we've arrived here, we filmed this thing, interesting, now what? Where we were texting each other throughout that first episode, and it was only once we were texting each other that we had a conversation of, oh, we should be saving these text messages and including them as part of the show. It's funny, I was just talking to a friend about this, but I think that's the case with Very Important People too, where we could have never guessed where that, like, the production design, the sort of like 80s talk show feel, so much of that show was conceived of like literally while we were creating it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, look, if it ain't broke, right? Like keep powering
Yeah.
through that.
Yeah, exactly right.
So I have a story about your dad that I would love to tell you. So one of my closest friends in the world was actually the best woman at my wedding. Was George Stephanopoulos' assistant in the Clinton White House.
So funny. Small world.
Yeah. And so I was out to dinner with her one night, and I was telling her about Dropout, and it was right after you had sent me the Keep Boston Weird shirt that I gave to my friend Owen Edgerton. Thank you again. Yeah. Incredible. But I was telling her about that. And she was like, because I was like, I don't think you'll know him, but I do think you're going to know his dad. And she was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, yeah, Rob knew all the assistants' names. Like asked us questions, talked to us like we were people, like that, you know, like obviously your dad, very famous on the internet with the youths these days, but like has been a man of the people well before they were born. And God, I feel like influences a lot of what you are.
I think that like, look, we're all sort of like it or not products of our parents. I think that my dad like modeled a lot of stuff for me, which is sort of unusual. Like he himself had a lot of opportunity. Obviously he's had a blessed career. I think there's a way in which like having that stuff modeled for you really matters and kind of prepares you for it. And he was constantly interfacing with the public. And he was interfacing with the public in interviews. He was interfacing with the public as a leadership figure. And so I think having him in my life has really helped me to probably like adopt some of those behaviors more gracefully. My mom too, like she also a leadership figure, also sort of in the public eye for much of her career. Like speaking of my dad, it's funny. My brother is this like hotshot academic professor at Columbia. And we like to say we sort of took my dad and we split him in half, and we each got like separate pieces of him. Which is like my brother took like the academic piece, and I took the ham, and we've each kind of like run with it in separate directions.
Delightful. I've talked to so many people at Dropout. Kevin Stiller, I got to talk to him, and this sort of in the same vein of like we talked about the profit sharing from last year, and how he believes, I think he's probably right, first time it's ever been done at this scale of like literally everyone who did any work with Dropout. Because he was like, I hired someone for 6 hours on one day, and they got the email of like, hey, we're doing profit sharing. How important are those ethics, whatever you want to call them, to Dropout's core philosophy?
I find myself a little stuck whenever I talk about this, because where I find myself tempted to go is to this place where I'm trying to like sort of convince other people to do this too. And so I find myself wanting to talk about like how it's in our commercial best interest. And then someone recently gave me the feedback. They're like, Sam, don't do that. Like it is at its heart a moral and ethical decision. And I guess both are true. I think what I will say on, sort of coming at it commercially is that we stand to gain tremendously from being everyone's favorite shop in town to work with. And what's wild is just that more entertainment companies aren't thinking that way, right? Like their attitude about talent comes from like so much more of a place of scarcity, of limited resources. We need to protect and hog as much as possible. And like, there is such a rule of karma here, which is when you start being generous and giving more away and earning the faith and the trust of your performers and your talent and your crew, it really makes a difference for your business. Yeah, ethically, I so immediately uncomfortable talking about this. I think like, look, we are now in a place that we never dreamed of being. Even when we set out this new version of Dropout 5 years ago, where it's like, we're doing really well. Like the company's in really good shape. If we're not sharing the wealth, like that feels really icky. It's like, it's a little bit our clever decision making that has got us here. But if we're talking about like what the real star of the platform is, it's the content. And there's lots of people involved in making that stuff. We also have very few masters we need to please, right? Like there are no shareholders. There's no boss above me. There's a very small handful of equity partners in the business. And like, we can make decisions like this because we're allowed to.
And, you know, I mean, look, thank goodness Brennan isn't like a raging capitalist, or, you know, he would be at some evil corporation running the like $1 million D&D show that they could profit off of him.
Totally,
but, you know, like profit sharing, residuals, that's going to keep, you know, the wild talent that you have cultivated coming back time and time again but in front of the camera and behind the camera.
Listen, hopefully that's true. We don't take it for granted at all. Like we think it's our responsibility to keep trying to do better and better and better by this group of people. And that's the mission. You know, this industry is absolute horseshit. Like I cannot frame that up for you any better, Jordan, except to say that like living in it for years and years and years, it is a miracle that anything good gets made, and it's a miracle that anybody makes any money at it. So, you know, we have an opportunity here. Like it's such a golden opportunity to not only produce good work, hopefully, but to set even just like one example, to plant one tree, right? And say like, it's doable this way. And hopefully us doing that puts some pressure on other people. You know, who knows? Again, like all of that is very idealistic, and I try to keep my feet on the ground as much as possible and just think about, you know, the people and the talent. But so I would call those like side benefits of doing what we're doing.
I think we've maybe exceeded the time that you allowed me today.
I don't have anything for another. If you have more for me, I don't have anything.
I have a million more questions for you, Sam. I could talk to you forever. What universe do you think I don't have more questions for you?
You came so well prepared to this.
Yeah,
are you a preparer by nature? Are you like
for stuff like this? I don't like to like if we're on vacation, like I'm not there. Like we've booked, if my wife and I go on vacation, we have reservations for lunch and dinner every single day we're there. Incredible. Like it is not like I'm not gonna just like wander around and try to figure it out. Like I've done my homework.
There's usually one of those in every relationship.
Yeah. My wife will be like, what do you want to do? Like we went to New Orleans this last year for a NADPOD live show. And she was like, what do you want to do while we're there? And I was like, I mean, restaurants. And she was like, what else? And I was like, no, I only care about eating when we travel. That's the only thing that means anything to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste your time. I was just going to say, same way we went to New York this past winter, but we went to a different restaurant every night. We saw a different piece of theater every night. It was like my heaven.
Gutenberg was so good.
So good. So purely silly.
Yeah. Oh man. Madly in love with it. I was in New York. God, I don't remember, last fall, October. Oh, it was for the NADPOD 5-year anniversary show.
Oh, there you go.
I travel for them a lot.
Wow.
And I went to Gutenberg matinee and Hadestown at night on one Sunday. And it was
I still haven't done Hadestown.
It's so good. A very different two shows, I'll tell you that.
I bet.
Didn't cry during Gutenberg. Go Woke, Go Broke what do you think about
Ah,
go woke great jokes? Because that's where I feel like you've actually landed.
there you go. A new
Like,
tagline.
yeah, I
It's
just,
really interesting. Like the whole, I mean, like this is another one that like I just don't think about it a lot, right? The whole like wokeness thing, I don't think about it
yeah.
a lot because it's just sort of like I feel like I'm a fish in that water, and all it is trying to create like a safe space for the people that you work with to feel like comfortable and empowered. And I'm sure that if I was living in like a very Republican state, like what made people safe and empowered? Oh, Jordan, so sorry.
That's all right.
Uh, what made people feel safe and empowered would probably be like very different, you
Mhm.
know? Um, yes, like I come from a very progressive background and I share all that ideology, but it's like, we just literally are trying to make people as comfortable and happy as possible. That's all it is, you know. Um,
Yeah.
we started experimenting with name tags on set recently, which is like it's such a little thing. It was actually recommended to me by Dave Wiskus, who runs Nebula. Um,
Oh, I've
and
watched your interview with him. It was delightful.
yeah, it's just like names and role on the crew and pronouns on a name tag is like such a simple thing. It makes a world of difference when you
Yeah.
know everyone's name on set
Then Grant knows the name of the person to yell at
that
that
he's
he's.
belittling.
Yes. Yeah. Makes it much better.
That's right. He knows what
um,
job to tell them they're failing at.
exactly.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grant, you magnificent bastard. Just
The
like,
best.
uh, one of the things, obviously, like I love that you've like cultivated a lot of this talent. Grant, Lily, obviously jump to mind because we're talking about Grant. And like
Yeah.
Dirty Laundry feels like you, and I think you've maybe even said this, like you wanted a place to showcase how talented Lily Do is.
Yeah.
And like she is a Bravo level, like Andy Cohen style host
I adore Lily. The
yeah.
truth is that we conceived of Dirty Laundry before conceiving of Lily for it. But the moment we auditioned for hosts, I think we auditioned like 8 or 10 people for host. But the moment we saw Lily's audition, we were like, who are we kidding? Like, and it's partially, yes, that Lily is such a consummate performer and such an inherently social creature, but it's also that Lily loves gossip. And so like leans into this role more than just about anyone else I could imagine because she's so invested in the answers to these questions. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, finding someone who's passionate about the gig, that's like half the battle right there.
Yeah. And now, like, you've brought up a bunch of those people. You keep bringing them across various shows, various around the network, which is fantastic. Now it feels like with like Dropout Presents, we're going to get like a whole new batch of new Dropout talent that I assume will be spun up into other shows moving forward as the audience falls in love with them and demands that we see, the big team across, Make Some Noise episode.
Totally. Good call, Jordan. There is a big team episode of Make Some Noise this next
Hey.
season. Yeah, well, sure. So Chris, has been on he's been on Play It By Ear. Chris he's in this next season of Make Some Noise as well. Just like a world-class improviser.
With Ross Bryant and Paul F. Tompkins. I solved your riddle, puzzle master.
Well, shit.
Look, you can't post a guy in a velvet suit and not have me go, oh, that's Paul F. Tompkins.
Yeah, I know. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
Courtney is an interesting question. I think Courtney is like a true genius, like a savant. I have no idea how comfortable she'll be leaping into our other shows. What she does is clown. It's like really specific. Would love to have her and Make Some Noise if she'd want to do it. We'll have to see. I think regardless, what excites me so much about Dropout Presents is, it's a fewfold. We're basically the exercises we're trying to find, like, what is our answer to a stand-up special? And we're trying a little bit of stand-up and a little bit of the one-person show thing and a little bit of improv in order to figure it out. And already just based on the success of our shoots so far, I'm like, we got it. Like, we nailed it. These one-person shows are so exciting. They are so, like, they are heads and shoulders beyond a traditional stand-up special. We're also doing some things that are more akin to traditional stand-up, which I also think they're just incredibly, incredibly high quality and very exciting. And the improv that we shot, Zach Oyama and team and Allie and team did a mono scene, which is in a structure that a lot of people are familiar with in the world of improv. It's the first time we've done anything like that on Dropout, and I think people are going to be really, really excited about it. So I'm thrilled with those shoots.
Yeah. Is the plan every year just to go to Fringe, steal everyone, and bring them back for Dropout Presents?
You know, what's tough is that now that I've outed that that's like a part of it, I'm like, oh boy, my experience of Fringe next year is going to be a little different.
Yeah, people are like, Sam's in the your best.
Shit.
This might be your break.
How thick does his wallet look? There'll be some of that for sure, and then I imagine there'll be like improv, and we'll only do stand up opportunistically. And I say that because like Netflix and Hulu are after stand up too, and we can't compete with them. Like Rachel is doing her show, I think for one of them, and like we could never compete at that level. But our offer stands up, like holds up remarkably well. We've like since learned against some of these major streamers, because all they're doing is they're offering money to talent and telling them to go do it themselves. And what the talent will often do is do that and then be left with nothing. You know, whereas like we're taking on the entire burden of production, which I think really, really, you know, makes a difference for folks.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. You're doing it differently and better. I'm shocked.
Just trying to clean up our little corner of the world.
Yeah. So are you aware of the blood feud that I have with Abria Iyengar? Is that a thing that you have?
I wondered a little bit, because like you and Abria are enemies and you and Vic are best friends, like what that leaves for you and I.
So Vic will choose Abria if push comes to shove, because obviously they know where their money is made, and it ain't off a random dude's podcast.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. So Abria, are you just afraid to put her on Game Changer because she could hurt you, or is it that she's not a strong enough improviser? I almost got through it.
Jordan, this is like in a borderline, like, okay, I invited Abria on Make Some Noise last season, and she straight up didn't get back to us.
Abria.
So when that human tells you that she hasn't been invited on, incorrect. I will also, she's straight up in this season of Game Changer.
Well,
although she's not playing, she's in a cameo role.
Gotcha. Oh man.
Just material for you as her mortal enemy.
Yes, yeah, I very much appreciate it. Like I had that question. That was the first question I wrote down on my like scribble of notes, and I was like, I don't know if I can say this because it's so mean, and our blood feud is much more playful.
It's a great gotcha question though.
Yeah. All right, you have to stop me at this point. So
I do actually have to stop you at this point. So
great. Yes. Yeah. All right. Obviously, everyone knows, like, there's no universe in which someone is watching this and they don't like follow you already on all the socials. They can find you.
You never know, Jordan. You never know.
I mean, yeah, if you want to plug that, or Vic always plugs trans charities whenever we do this. So if you want to be
lovely,
yeah, Vic's like, don't follow me. Go follow like the local like terrible trans laws that are being passed and do something about that. So. What would you like to plug the Dropout charity or the D20 charity auction coming up?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Actually, is we are selling off the Dimension 20 minis from the first ever season of Dimension 20. This is the most probably sentimental folks will get about Dimension 20 minis. 100% of proceeds are going to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund.
That's
so
such a high percentage.
it is. I actually don't think it gets higher math wise. So if you have disposable income, go buy a mini. And, if you don't consider donating anyway to the humanitarian crisis that's happening disturbingly close by.
Yeah. Sam, thank you so much. This could not have been more delightful. I'm so excited for the next time we get to do this a year from now.
Listen,
you're very busy.
Yeah, unfortunately, bit off a lot running this company. But I so appreciate your fandom and the extent to which you've, leaned in and made talking about Dropout a part of your online identity. It's really cool and it's really flattering, truthfully.
Thank you. It actually has become the exclusive thing that I talk about basically now.
Me too.
I don't know when that happened, but at some point it did. I committed too hard to interviewing people, and I was like, oh, it's all I can talk about now.
Hey, listen, we're getting bigger all the time. So, rising tide lifts all boats, hopefully, yours included.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm going to be emailing you so soon about a very important panel. I just need your buy-in. That's it. And the great thing is, you don't have to send anything for me because I live here already. I have no travel. Yeah, easy peasy. All right, peasy. Sam, thank you so much. I don't know how to end interviews, so I'm just going to hit stop recording. So
sounds good. And stop.